Okay, thank you. Roll call of directors. Director Garcia,
Here.
Director Gibson,
Here.
Director Kelling,
Here.
Director Nyman's here, Director Schoenberg.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. All right, to discussion vote, just agenda if necessary. Okay, hearing nothing. On to number 3. Are there any public comments? Okay, unfinished business. 4, discussion vote update on Fraser Park Lake of the Woods Consolidation Planning Project. A, discussion vote on test wells construction documents and schedule. I don't think we have anything on that. D, you're muted.
That's correct. I've got a communication. I expect to have all the signed contract documents, and I expect them this week. It looks like it's going to be probably the beginning of next week. But once I get them, I'll do a quick review and then send them to the board.
Okay, and then we can have them for approval, I guess, for the next meeting, I assume.
Yes.
Okay. And that's the same with the contract for Johnson Drilling.
That's correct.
Okay. So on to number C, vote on engineering planning contract amendment.
Guys, we've already started. You're 3 minutes into the meeting.
Yes. Oh, you weren't on, Dave? I thought everybody was on. I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, that's okay. Carlos is on.
Oh, hey, Carlos. Long time no see, no hear. Welcome.
Yep. Thank you.
So,
All right. What are you coming back to us?
do we want to discuss that now?
Well,
I'll let Dave let you guys know.
okay, when we get down more, then you can let us know. Right now we're on the consolidation. I'd be out of order. Sorry. Okay. So basically, the only changes that you made was Exhibit B, right, D?
There we go. Yeah, I'm unmuted. Yes. I made those changes. There are a number of them that I've itemized there in that list. And, there are several items that were reduced, of course, as we all know about, and then I increased probably about 3 or 4 of them.
So we did the engineering for P&S for test wells that went up to 27,560, which covered that last invoice that we had under there. Then we increased the $40 for the labor compliance. And then you increased the hydrologist by 2,480, which makes it to 32,480. Water quality testings was 22,500, which is no change. Hydrology report was increased by 6,464, which came to 19,488. Final PER $14,080. That was increased by 8,112.
D, I think there's an error on that.
Okay.
The current total amount that I have in our budget for that final preliminary design report, D, and the board is 40,292 for a total cost currently. But your proposal shows 14,000 with the adjusted number.
For the final PER?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a typo on your part, D.
I mean, yeah, it might have been, I'm looking for my document. For some reason, that's the one that I don't have in front of me right now. But
Okay, well, let's look at exhibit A was final. Well, on his exhibit A on our contract, he only had for the final PER 5,968.
And it could be error on my part, because that's what we have in the that's what we have in the budget, the claim budget.
Fairly high though, considering what we're paying for the draft PER, which is almost, it was just 35,000 or 34.
Well, is it what was that total amount that you said, Dave?
40. That would bring
4292. So maybe it's okay, he broke it up into draft and
that's the
final.
total.
34, 324 plus 5,968 equals 40,292.
So it was 40, but now it's gone up another $10,000 or $9,000.
Yeah.
Okay, and can I bring up some issues I have right
Okay,
now?
hold on. Let me finish and then you can go. I just want to do the last thing. So it's increased by the 8,000 comes to 14,000. Okay. So the total for that is increased by 8,112. Okay. And then we added an administration line of $24,420 to the contract. Now you go ahead, Director Schoenberg.
Okay, so I have two basic issues. One is that there isn't a separate broken out line for inspection. And I have a problem with it just being under administration. I don't think that that makes sense. And I do not see a separate line item here for actual inspection, which I think should be broken up by itself. And I did not catch that on the original, on any of the original stuff. And then I also have a problem with the MOU because right now there's no line item for the MOU. And I don't believe we have enough allocated under Fraser Park Project Management Administration and Legal to cover that.
I think D, I think D, what are you looking for?
I think he's looking for his document.
Um,
He said he didn't have it on his desk.
yeah, well, I mean, we figured out what it was because he broke out you know, a draft PER and final PER comes to that 40,292.
I found the document, but, and I've been listening, but let's go through it again if there's some issues.
Go through what again?
The draft amendment number 1.
Yeah, okay. So where do we need to start?
Well, we can start with the cover letter of the amendment. Let's see. Project management, the project management amount that's the to the district, which is 35.8.
Yeah,
Changing that. Item 2, plans and specs, we went to 27,560, which is the amount that we bill for those, and so that covers that. The drilling, of course, we decreased it because we decreased the number of wells, and so that went down. And labor compliance, I don't know why I wrote increased $50 because
It's supposed to be 40. Yeah, that's a typo. That needs to be fixed.
just punched the wrong key there. And property licenses, they were decreased to, we had 30,000 in there, I think, and then They actually were going to be 10, so we,
Right, and I think, Dee, you need to add a line that actually says how much it is because you left that off.
I did, that's right.
Property licenses isn't on there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well, it says 10,000.
it
10,000,
does not say 10,000. It says property licenses decreased 20,000.
yeah. I
It
need,
doesn't say it in this letter.
that's right. I need
He
to
has amounts
and,
for everything else.
Fish and wildlife fees,
Oh,
2,000.
I see what you're saying, Lisa. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I, for some reason didn't put that in there. Hydrogeological, I increased that 2,480, just due to the anticipated costs that we've seen cost increases over the last year or so in the services. Water quality testing, keeping that at 22.5. The hydrogeology report, 19,488, and again, also increased due to what we feel will be the actual cost when we finally get this done. Then the draft PER 34,324, no change. And the final PER 14,080, which has increased 8,112. And again, the draft is really where we spend quite a bit of time. And then what happens usually, we turn that into the state, and the state usually has comments they want us to cover some other things, possibly make revisions to the report. And so by the time we get through with all the review and all the changes, we can spend quite a bit of time depending on what the state wants. So I increased that, anticipating what we may need for that particular item. And then the administration 24,420, and we added those costs based on what we've seen over the last year and a half with the cost for administration of those test well projects. And so that was again anticipated. We don't want to charge more than what we actually bill. We bill on an hourly basis, but the whole reason here was to put in some costs that we think will cover all of these items so that there won't be any surprises when we finally get the project done.
So Dee, in regard to that, I believe that you actually added some administrative costs that have to do with the PER. And I would like to see those listed under the PER as opposed to just administrative costs. Because some of that was you going back over the draft PER, is that correct?
No, this administration cost would be the cost of administration of the test well project itself.
Right, but all that extra PER work, where did you put that?
Well, that is actually not, this draft PER is for the project because it's not for the well, like well 5, what we did.
No, I'm talking about the test wells. That's the one that we went back over.
Well, this is,
Not well 5. I mean, we went over well 5 too, but we remember there were a number of issues with the test well bid.
that's not in here at all.
Okay, because I was pretty sure that you added it under administrative costs. I recall paying for it.
No, I didn't. We just, what we've done is that was being paid for by room rent funds. And we requested an increase from Tulare County.
Okay, so that was under
funding. And we haven't received any reply at all from them. So
I thought IRWIMP was only for the well 5.
it is. It is for
Okay,
well,
I'm not talking about well 5. I'm talking about the test wells. We're not on well 5. We're on the test wells.
the test well part of this is item 2, but this whole thing is for the entire design, test wells, design, and preparation of plans and specifications for the entire project, for everything.
Right,
For,
but the big, huge PER that you and I went over, not the well 5, the big, huge PER for this, where it had all of these changes, and then you went back in and some resubmitted costs for that, what does that fall under?
I'm trying to think of what you're referring to.
I
That,
believe
you
it
know,
falls under
that-
administrative costs.
I think it was the specifications, Lisa, that we did that in the summer, right? And in the fall.
I
And
don't
and
remember when at the point.
we
I
had,
just know I spent a lot of time on it, and I'm pretty sure that that there was some extra added cost for that. This is not well 5 I'm talking about. That had extra added costs also, but this is this draft PER for the test wells, and the project
no,
specifically.
those were specifications for the test well. And
Correct.
we spent tons of time on that. And those costs are
So
not in this.
they're not broken out. I mean, didn't
No.
we pay for that?
Well, I didn't bill for quite a bit of it. We just had to get those things produced and
I recall bills for that.
the amount that we got for the specifications was 27,560 under item 2, the very first line, and we increased that by $2,534. And that
Okay,
was
so you're saying that 2534 are the extra charges for administration on the plans and specs.
I
They're not really administrative, but for fixing the plans and specs.
no, that was preparation of plans and specifications, and it wasn't administration. And frankly, it probably cost us a lot more than what we billed in order to produce those plans and specifications. So, but we did bill for an increase of $2,534. And that brought that plans and specs for the test wells to 27,560. But we didn't do, but that's what you and I spent a lot of time last summer and early fall going through those specifications and
Right. I just thought that you billed that and that part of that bill went under administrative costs. I was just asking that it be included under what it actually was for instead of just administrative costs, so we kind of know, because that was for plans and specs. So you're saying you didn't bill for that, but I could have sworn that you billed for that.
Dave, you have a comment?
Yeah, the administration cost is a new item that's been added to the budget, and it was added to cover like administration costs during the test well construction, like handling the documents for contract, the claims for the construction claims, also the meetings and so forth, as well as inspection, as you pointed out, Lisa.
Right, but I have a problem, and that's another issue. I think that inspection should be broken out. I'm not really okay with it being under administrative costs. Most of the time when we've done these, it's just more helpful for us to break out inspection, because inspection is a separate item really from just straight administrative costs.
Uh-huh.
Well, then we'll have to go back to Lawrence again.
the inspection.
I know we didn't do that, but I mean, this is just something I thought about today. When I was going back over this, is that I really feel that that should be a separate line item. And the reason I think that is because it's not a separate line item under some other budgets either. And I really think that it needs to be, so it doesn't just run into administrative costs and it's just one big lump sum.
The inspection fees and the inspection costs are included under hydrogeological. Those are in that total for hydrogeological. They are not in administrative.
They're under hydrologist?
Yes,
No,
hydrogeology.
but it's not just a hydrologist. I'm talking about the engineering. Don't we have a an on-site inspector from you,
We,
also
we,
checking stuff?
I've included our time and also the hydrogeologist under that one component. And the reason for that is this. What happens is we use both. We don't sit on it all the time, and the hydrogeologist doesn't either. We make periodic inspections, usually every other day or every day, depending on what's going on. Once it gets down into the formations that we want to look at, there's a good chance that the hydrogeologist will be there all the time, or we will be there all the time during that period. I don't know how much time that's going to take because we just don't know how much time it's going to take to drill the well. And so I've combined both of those because we work back and forth with the hydrogeologist. Sometimes we're on site, sometimes the hydrogeologist staff is on site. And so I've included all of that in hydrogeological. And so that site work is included there, Lisa.
Okay, so can we just make very clear on the billing that that's the case? Because I'm worried that that's gonna sort of blend, and I don't know, I mean, when you bill for hydrogeological, that we're taking it out of the right budget if
Oh,
it's an on-site inspection?
we can do that. And, our bills come out that are pretty detailed there. And the amounts that we spend on site, we can actually make a separate cost center for that and bill it that way so that, it'll be site inspection and it'll be, some of our staff time, some of Ken Smith's staff time. And
That could be a whole separate invoice that we,
it
because-
could be a separate
and when you're going to pay Ken Smith, we pay you and then you pay Ken Smith, or is that how that works?
Yes,
Okay.
So, but all of that is going to come off of hydrogeological, you're
that's
saying?
correct.
Okay,
It looks pretty skinny, though. That's the whole thing of administration was we thought it was to include the inspection and other costs, like you meet with the meetings with the board and stuff like that. That's during construction, which self-help TA can't pay for those meetings during construction.
That's right.
So that's an administration, but the inspection part is part of the hydrological work. 2,400, that was increased by $2,480.
Yeah.
Is that going to be enough?
Well, what we've got in there, we increased it to exhibit A, let me see.
30,000.
30,480 from 30. So it was
Yeah.
originally 30,000, it's now 32,480.
Okay, and test well construction will take place how long?
We don't know. It could be a month.
We have 120 days by
Yeah,
the
could be 2
contract from
months.
SIA, but hopefully it'll be
Yeah,
less than that.
we're hoping that it'll be less.
So Dee, because you have to go in and change some stuff on this anyway, can you put hydrologist / inspection? Because it's not just gonna go to the hydrologist then.
Yes, I can break that out.
You're just gonna put a slash in there. You're gonna leave it in the
I
same.
can just put a slash so we don't have to go back to Lawrence, but I was curious where the inspection fees were coming from. If they're coming from administration, if they're coming, I was under the impression they were coming from administration. And then it seems not high enough. So that's why I'm asking that. So that's why I just wanted it in some, so that we can follow where exactly the inspection fees are coming out of. And then my other question is for the memorandum of understanding. I don't believe that the 35.8 is enough to cover that.
Let me see.
And it's
Where-
nowhere else.
Where is that, Lisa?
I don't see it anywhere. That's the problem.
Right. It's not in, we, back in, when we put this whole thing together in 2015, we
It's
moved
supposed
that,
to,
we moved that
yeah, I
amount
mean,
um,
right.
out of the slot that I had it in. I can't remember where we put it.
I don't know, it disappeared and it's definitely supposed to happen at the end of the project because originally we had it slated for the beginning of the project, which
Yep.
I didn't want down and I kept saying stuff about. And then we said that we were going to do it at the very end because we really have to have an idea of the test wells and whether they're going to work or not before we can do an MOU. So, but somehow it dropped off and now it's going to come right out of Fraser Park's pocket if it's not back in here.
Uh, let me see here.
So we have contingency money to cover it, but right now, I really, since we're changing all this stuff, it seems like we should change it within this document now rather than wait.
Actually, this, I think what we have to do, the document paralleled what Lawrence prepared, and his attachment B, drop that amount, and if you kind of look at it, this is in our contract, our grant.
Yeah,
Those
but it needs to be part of our grant.
those are not on the list that he prepared. And that's attachment B to the funding agreement, the FA.
I'm looking for attachment B.
It would be B1 on the FA.
Yeah, but I don't believe that that's enough because
Well,
again, it's not really covering. I mean, we've already had a number of legal fees. It's stretched on much longer than it was supposed to. So we've already had a number of, meeting fees. We've already had a number of administration fees because Tiffany's had to do all kinds of tracing stuff down and trying to figure out what the heck's going on with the invoicing. And we're trying to track multiple invoices because we're having to pay some things before we, it's just, that we've had to track the claims, we've had to go back and change invoices. So I don't believe that that's enough money to cover the MOU.
the MOU is not mentioned in attachment B at all. But the total $1,014,892 is what we got from the state for the grant.
I understand that. That's not going to change. What I'm saying is that if it's not in this paperwork, it's going to come out of our pocket.
The
Or we're gonna have to do an amendment.
No, I don't want to do an amendment. I think it needs to be, we're doing an amendment now, so we should be doing it now. I don't want to, at the end, have to go into contingency when there might not be anything left and try to find money for the MOU.
I think you're right, Lisa, and I think that we're underfunded, and it started that way because we were even underfunded from the budget that I had prepared in 2015. So I think what's going to really have to happen is we're going to have to go after more money as we get
No,
further down.
I don't think so necessarily. We just put more money in the contingency because we took away a test well and a license and all kinds of stuff. So I would like the MOU to be included as part of this money right now, rather than having to go to Lawrence for more money. I just don't know what happened to the MOU. It completely dropped off of here.
So basically, are you saying add that now and then Dave, then but we'd be doing that prior to approval from Lawrence. We'd have to go to Lawrence and send him a letter and say, the MOU is, is approved, and then we can go ahead and do the MOU. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
the costs for the MOU are not included here.
It has to be part of all of this, but we already went to Lawrence and we're already putting in changes. So while we're putting in all these changes, it makes sense to try to get that now and make sure that it's accounted for rather than wait and do it again and run the risk of us not having money to cover it.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but my question is, because Lawrence has already approved these changes, so we're approving this contract. I know you want to do it right now. Maybe we have to go to Lawrence at the next meeting and bring the subject up and get approval, and then have to add another amendment to the contract.
Right, but right now we're kind of on hold for a lot of stuff. So I don't have a problem if we have to wait to approve this contract. I know Lawrence needs it, but we already have that money. That money is already being paying for things where all of this falls within planning. All of this has been talked about and it was on our original documents and it is no longer on here.
Is this a memorandum of understanding between you folks and the water companies you're absorbing?
Yes.
Yes.
And what happened, Dave, is it was supposed to be when you originally did this, it was task 1. And task 1 is basically, done. Except for, there were some things in task 1 that shouldn't have been in task 1. And so then we asked that it be changed to task 6 or whatever, which we don't even have that stuff anymore. I don't know what happened to that, but that doesn't show up. I don't know if that, but when we do the claims, that was originally, we had like some tasks broken out and we, and that was agreed upon with Lawrence. And the MOU was one of those tasks, but the MOU got moved and it never made it back into the costs.
And that task would that would basically follow when all the work is the test well and you've seen water, and that would be prior to
Going to get construction funds.
Correct. Correct. And I believe that that's going to take some money because we're going to have some wrangling with the lawyer. It's not, I don't think that it's going to, I think that 3,200 is, going to just barely cover what we're doing now because, this project stretched out considerably longer than what we had originally anticipated. So we have way more meetings than what we originally anticipated and way more. And we didn't have like that whole, meet with the state every month in there either. So I think that we're gonna, rather than try to scramble with the contingency at the end of all this, I'd like to try to make sure that we're covering it.
And I don't need to, I just, is that we might be able to have that in our we're going to be converting to a safer work plan for this project, I hope, because you're dealing with water quality issues too. So that could be, that money, the legal funds like that could come out of self-help technical assistance if you need it. But I know that's down the road.
Yeah, maybe. We haven't even gotten approved yet for the, what I'm saying? Yes, I guess it could. I just want to make sure.
She just wants to make sure that one way or another we get covered.
You're covered.
So, I mean, I'm okay with going with the safer funds, but I just don't want us to get to a point where we've forgotten about it. And then all of a sudden we're having to beg hat in hand to Lawrence saying, hey, we need contingency, or you say, oh, it's not available for that. And then we get into trouble. Then we end up footing the bill for how many thousands of dollars,
Yeah, no, you guys have good foresight on no,
Lisa does.
Yeah.
I give her all the credit.
Okay, thanks, and I appreciate that, Lisa. I mean, Lawrence is pretty quick on these budget adjustments, and I think it's something to have in there, but I wouldn't. I mean, if you want, you could do that. I just don't know. The question is how much.
I don't know, but that's something that, that was supposed to be in this whole draft. So that's why I'm saying if we're changing all of this stuff and we're, because it was originally in here somewhere.
It was 14,284, and it was in the budget that we prepared in 2015 2015. And
But is that just your engineering? That doesn't include legal?
that was 10,000 worth of legal and $4,284 worth of engineering in 2015. So it was, what I included in there is 10,000 for legal. And then knowing that, normally we get involved in some of that stuff, I put in some staff time.
And you folks already do have a more limited MOU, and you also have a vote from the Lake of the Woods that went through 3 or 4 different ballots, and they got over 51% of their shareholders to approve the transfer of the system when and if it
But-
comes about.
Yeah, we don't really have that MOU I mean, it's extremely draft. It is nowhere close to where it needs to be. And I think that there are some things that are going to happen with wording on the test wells and wording on, what we can, I mean, and on top of that, I also don't, I don't know if that was included or not, but we also have the, I mean, that's not a lot of money, but the municipal services review, I mean, where is that in regard to all of this? Because we're paying more on that too.
And yeah, those costs were supposed to we're supposed to get updated on those numbers, right?
Yes,
Okay.
but where is that?
I mean, you have a draft, you have one that was completed earlier, and it needs to be updated to accommodate additional property.
Right, but what I'm just saying is there's no breakdown. Okay, so we have a cost breakdown for claims for the district, but is all that getting shoved under project management, administration, and legal? Because it's not enough.
I can't speak for D. It seems a lot of this is more. I mean, what I understood years ago is that if you don't find water, clean water, or an adequate supply to serve the district and any additional users, everything, all bets are off. That was to put it bluntly, that was my understanding of. And so I think this document is this planning is focused on trying to identify source of clean water and supply. That's with your test wells. And then D's going to do, if you do find that, then you'd move forward. D would move forward with his preliminary design report for which is a pretty extensive preliminary design report for looking at, well, here's how we could serve the whole area. It's more of it's a forward design on, okay, well, we've got the supply, and here's what improvements are needed to the district and these other areas. And then it comes up with a cost estimate. And that is a document that you take and share with everybody and talk about. And then that would seem like a good segue for, hey, we need, to move forward with the MOUs like you were talking about. But
Right, but we also need to move forward with the MSR for annexation at that point, because none of that would fall under construction. It all has to happen in this phase, in this project.
Towards the end of the phase.
Yeah. So I just feel like we're missing a couple items that we're going to be like at the end of this. And if something goes wrong, where suddenly we have more costs that are going to come out of contingency for, test wells, because something funky goes on, or who knows. My experience is that sometimes stuff comes out of contingency. And so then I don't want to scramble at the end and go, oh, well, we didn't cover.
Oh, we didn't budget for it. We don't have any money.
Yeah, exactly. Because that has happened to us in the past.
Because if we're going to spend more money for a different item, then we need to go back to the state to push to see where we could get more funds.
Well, yeah, I don't think we necessarily need more funds. I think that before we just go, oh yeah, just put it all in contingency, that we need those things there.
I think we're underfunded, but I think that, one of the things, we have a big contingency fund, 170,000, and we could take 15,000 or 20,000 out of that, create another item 6A or 7, and put that, reduce the contingency by that amount, and create another line item that would cover that, MOU if you want.
MOU and legal costs.
Well, MOU, MSR, yeah, I mean, annexation fees, like, where's all that coming out of? Because right now I feel like it's all gonna come out of one and we're gonna run out of money.
Yeah, I think you're right, Lisa, and I think we could budget that out of, we'll just have to take it out of contingency and put in a couple of other line items at this point in time for that.
So my question is, I know that Lawrence needs this. I know that we submitted an invoice, but in order for them to pay, don't we have to have this contract amendment to him, which we've already done with the 2000 for the last one that we added the engineering, the 27,560, because we've already asked for that money through invoices, haven't we, Dave?
Yes. Yeah, that was paid this last claim.
Right.
And then there's other, as you move forward into construction of the test wells, there's time and stub material that the engineer will be charging for. Not this next claim, but the following claim or claims.
Right, but what I'm
I
thinking-
guess the question is, okay, here's my thinking. So my question on this is that if we're going to add that in, because Lisa wants to do it with this amendment, is it okay for us to add that in and then go to Lawrence and send him a letter?
Well, it was, what I want to say is it was already there. All that stuff dropped off. It was part of our tasks. All the annexation stuff, all that stuff was there. There was a little bit that was in the pre-planning, but we knew that it had to come from the planning because we ran out of the money in the pre-planning. So none of that got accounted for, or it did at maybe at the very beginning of this, but now it's all dropped off. And I think it's all like somehow falling under item number one, which, like I said, I feel like we're gonna run out of money for Fraser Park out of item number one, because we have had a lot more meetings than we ever anticipated. We have a lot more administration than we ever anticipated. We have a lot more legal than we ever anticipated that has to do with our legal issues, not the legal that's being included under D's stuff. So I just like feel like it dropped off. And I'm wary of waiting any longer, and certainly wary of waiting until we, when we break ground, because if other things come up, I can see, D keeps saying we're underfunded. I don't know if they're going to give us any more funding. So if it's not covered, underfunded or not, then we're going to think we have a lot more in contingency than we have.
Well, the biggest question mark was the construction of the test wells, and that's a done deal aside from future change orders, and you have contingency money for that. I can understand getting it all done in one chunk request, but and you could put it forward that way to Lawrence. Hey, here's the list, and I'd recommend having a meeting with him to go through that.
Right. I mean, I'd rather do it now than come back to him and then once again I just feel like we keep piecemealing this thing, and he's very accommodating, but I just think it makes sense to do it now. And if we need to have another, phone call with him, we have another phone call with him. But, that's the whole point of us having those meetings every month, is to anticipate stuff like this.
Uh-huh.
Well, so the question is that we can update this contract, but we wouldn't approve it tonight. I mean, we would approve the changes, but we would have to wait for next month. Can we wait another month to approve this contract, or does he have to have it?
D, what's your feeling on that?
Oh, I'm okay. Our heavy, I think really things will really start happening when we get the driller on site. And that'll probably be, it could be April, as early as April, but I'm targeting probably May 1st. But so we've got the month of March, but I think you know, when the driller hits the ground and he's gonna wanna get going as soon as he can and, you know, in the spring,
Right.
that's when we're really gonna start incurring some.
So the question is,
big-
can we wait until the end of March meeting to approve this contract? As long as Lawrence doesn't have to have it, then we can have the meeting, because we're gonna have a meeting with Lawrence. Let me look.
3 weeks.
In 3 weeks, we're having one on the 18th of March. And our water board meeting's on the 25th. So my question is, do we have Dee update this contract and then we can talk to Lawrence on the 18th and say, okay, we want to establish this line item for the MOU and the amount and legal fees and the amount of, 20,000, whatever Dee feels that should be, and we want to move it from contingency and get his approval, then that week we can have you do a letter, Dave. We can do a letter when he approves it, and then on the 25th, we can approve this contract.
Well, and because it needs to, because it also changes the scope of work. It changes a few things that it's not in a few places that, and since D has changed some of these letters, I think it needs to go in there because it's not, if we approve this, then we have to go back and approve it again. Because it's not.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that we ask him to update it and we don't approve it till next month.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. That we talk to Lawrence on the 18th, get the approval, then we can send Lawrence the letters saying he approved it, because we always have to send him a letter when we're moving money from contingency. And then on the following week, we could approve this contract and wrap it all up and be done.
And you could include Lawrence on some of that correspondence, so that he's got a heads up and doesn't have to wait till the 18th of March to get that. He could see where you folks are going through with what you're dealing with. He gets time to look at it and chew on it.
Right.
I think I really think that Lawrence needs to weigh in on this because he has categorized things in the FA. And we need to amend that attachment B probably. The total at the bottom will be the same, but we need to move money
From the
around.
contingency.
Yes.
So reduce the contingency and a new line item.
Uh-huh.
And it's not like it wasn't there, D. It has fallen off. Like, I don't know how it fell off, but it was part of, I think well, I don't think it fell off. I think it was item 1. I think it was all under item 1, but the problem is that now that's not nearly going to cover it.
It was on, I included it under agreements under item 7. But I never had one for the MSR. I had not put anything in for that. And in 2015, our total project with the contingency was 1.284 million, 1.285 back in 2015. And we know that costs have gone up from 2015. That's, 6 years ago. So
Sorry.
that's just why I'm thinking that,
The initial MSR was covered by Dave as TA funds.
Is that right, Dave? Is that how that?
Yeah, and those MSRs came about based on like stuff that the state had for those documents. So we had, not MSR. Yeah, the MSR was paid for by with the pre-planning funds.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had an additional $3,000 or so was made with agreement with Stan to cover updates to that MSR. And we spent some of that money, I think, when Carlos was, before Carlos had moved over off project. And then there's about $2,200 plus left in funds that self-help has that can be used towards updating the MSR.
But it doesn't, but the annexation stuff all fell off too, because that was all part of the pre-planning.
I think we had the annexation stuff in there also. Like
Yes.
there's fees for, state board of equalization. There's other costs included in there. So we don't, it's not a contract per se, but it's a fee you have to pay when you go to LAFCO. And they're going to require you. So I believe we have some of those fees. I did put out a
When we
request.
file. Yeah.
I did put out a request to get a determination of the amount that we had. And I heard that LAFCO is going to update its costs. So,
Yes, but they're not going up like a huge amount, but it is going up.
right.
So by the time we file, it's going to be more than you originally anticipated for.
Yeah.
And anyway, and some of that is still under TA funds, but it's looking pretty likely that we're going to need a larger amount of money because of what Bravish. I mean, I don't think it's going to be as much as, Bravish is charging an incredibly larger amount of money. But we had already done quite a chunk of that work, so I'm a little concerned. So we still have to have that conversation, but I do believe it's going to be more than 2,200 that you have left in your TA funds.
Okay. There's documents here. There's a document draft, there is already like a document drafted up about transferring the assets or whatever between Lake of the Woods and Fraser Park.
Yeah, but that wasn't actually a full MS. There's some work that's been done, but it's not, that's all draft and it's missing quite a bit of stuff and it's missing all the contingency information. And that's going to take some work and it's going to take some legal fees. I read it, I reread it not that long ago, and it is nowhere near where we need it to be.
Well, I know there's like a pretty substantial document that is pages and pages and pages. It's legal stuff. I think it was drafted by the attorney.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
But like I said, I went back through that and it does not contain most of what we need. I went back through that when I had to write the letter to Lawrence about, helping cover Lake of the Woods costs. So Tiffany had sent me that document, and which is the only document we really, have that deals with any of that, but it's missing tons of stuff. It includes tons of stuff and it spells out a lot of stuff, but it doesn't spell out contingency. It doesn't spell out a lot of what it needs to spell out, and it's going to be a considerable chunk of money, I
Okay,
believe.
so right now we're dealing with point of order. This is all
It's not
part
a
of
point
it.
of order. This is all part of it.
But the question is, how are we going to move forward? And that's what we need to get to. We can beat this in this meeting, but at some point we have to decide how we're going to move forward with this contract, what we're going to do. Are we going to have a meeting with Lawrence and Dee's and the ad hoc committee, or how do we want to handle this? This is,
It can be done in the ad hoc. The ad hoc is already a project committee. It needs to be in these documents. I propose what you were saying, which is that D change first of all, there's some other changes that need to happen in both this letter. There was also like a typo, but I'm not even going to bring that up. But there's some other changes that need to be done in here. And then I think that we should, talk about it in our state meeting that we have and tell them that we realized that the MSU and that the MSR had dropped off, and that, that some items had dropped off that were originally in both the pre-planning and then were supposed to be established in the planning and somehow aren't on here. And then, do whatever we need to do with Lawrence and then approve this in that meeting in March.
okay, so what are,
So I move that that's how we deal with it. The only issue is that it puts off what else is on claim? I don't know if claim 6 right in front of me, Dave. What else is on claim 6 that is going to affect? Because is he holding claim 6 for this contract? Is that what you're saying?
No, claim 6 was already approved for payment today.
Yeah, so it's claim 7, which we haven't even put in yet, right?
Claim 7 will just cover up through February. So that goes in March, but it would be And that's a discussion that you and Carlos will have, along with me while I'm here. But it's something that you'll right now you're submitting a claim every 3 months. But when you have the contractor on site doing work, do you have enough funds to cover the contractor and then submit a 3-month claim to wait for the state to process it? So you might want to go to monthly. You may want to go to monthly claims, and that's pretty busy.
Sorry, I missed all that. I'm having problems with my internet.
Well,
Um,
basically, it's not going to affect anyone's payments at this point right now if we were to approve this in March.
Right.
So I would like to make a motion that we have D go back, include all this extra stuff, fix the typos, bring all this up at the meeting with Lawrence on the 3rd week of next month. And then on the 4th week of next month, when we have our regular planning meeting, we approve the amended contract and letter.
I'll
And-
second that.
Wait,
yeah,
Dave has something.
Are you making all of this part of the engineering contract? Or are you making it separate line items for annexation?
well, there are separate line items, like, in the engineering contract is Fraser Park, so that's not part of the engineering contract. Yes, I think it needs to be on attachment C, where item 1 has nothing to do with engineering. It's completely separate. That 35,000 has to do with Fraser Park Public Utility District. It is not engineering, but it is part of the project.
Right. And would you have a line item for MSR, or would you pay D to contract with the person for the MSR? Or would you contract for the MSR?
I don't know. That's what we need to I don't know, because from what it looks like, D is not including the MSR in any of this, nor the MOU.
Okay, so some of those are budget items separate from D's contract.
Right. That's right.
Potentially, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize to interrupt.
That's okay.
But doesn't like the MOU have to be in D's contract in order for them, if they're adding that line item?
So
that's what-
you can add a item to the budget. It's just
But part of
whoever
that
contract you have is subject to that.
Part of that MOU pays, there's an engineering component of both the MSR and the MOU.
Motherfucking piece of shit.
We can hear
Oh.
that.
Sorry.
Director
Excuse
Hyman.
me. Sorry. I apologize if I've offended anybody.
Wow.
I just frustrated because it keeps going in and out.
My sentiments exactly.
Well, we can do I'm okay with putting the MOU under our contract. But because we do have some things that are, he's requiring, the number of things get updated before he, draws up the MOU. So I
But
mean, not the MOU,
it
but
can't
MSR. MSR,
it can't-
sorry.
just be under you though, D, because there's legal, unless you're also doing a contract with our legal,
No,
because there's all kinds of legal stuff.
right. I misspoke. I really meant MSR. The MSR could fit under us, and we could put that as another line item that would be through engineering.
But wouldn't he have to have engineering costs for the MOU too, because he's gonna have staff costs? And then we'd have to add another line item separate for Young and Wooldridge
Yes.
for legal fees for
Yeah,
MOU.
they would definitely be in direct contract with the district under legal. So
Right. It probably needs to be like a 1B or 1A or 1C or something. You know what I'm saying? Like under item 1, that's the district, but parts of that are you doing it as well. So part of it has to be under your contract. I don't know. I don't know the best way to do that. So scratch my motion that's on the floor that hasn't been seconded anyway. And I mean, I think that we need to work that out where all those costs go, but they need to be a part of this contract and letter, I believe.
Les, I think probably we need to have a telephone conversation with Lawrence and kind of work through some of these things and then make the modification to this. And I think we could do that if, you know, we could have a conversation with him next week if we want to, or, you know, just in a few days just to, you know, get his take on it so that when we produce this final document for him, you know, there's no surprises and he'll be okay with it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm really not available next week until probably Friday and, Thursday afternoon, but I don't know how I'll be feeling because I'm getting my second, COVID vaccine.
Hey, you and me both. Let me see. Next week is always that first week in a month is extremely busy. Friday would be okay, the 5th.
I'm okay. I have Friday completely open. Do you have that available, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay, so let's shoot for having a call with Lawrence. Would you be available, Dave?
Yes. The 5th?
Wait a minute. Hold on one second. Let me just double check something. I'll be right back to you guys. Hold on just one moment.
Dave, would you set that up?
Okay. Is there a particular time, the afternoon or the morning?
All right, can you not set it up yet? Can you hold on one moment?
Sure.
I'm going off mute. No, I mean, I'm
That's
muting.
fine. We're just talking what their availability is, Lisa. We still have to wait for you. So morning's better for you, Dave?
Okay,
Morning
I
or
can do
afternoon?
that. Thank you. Sorry.
So morning's better for you, Dave? Is that what you said?
Any time in the day.
Okay. All right. Any time of the day is good for me.
Any time of the day is good for me.
Okay.
D?
Yeah, same here. Prefer the morning. I can think a little bit clearer in the morning, but
Okay.
but
Well, I think we just need to provide, if you send an email to Lawrence and see if he's available, when is he available and if he's available on Friday.
Okay,
thanks, Dave.
I will.
All right, thank you. All right, okay, moving on. D, vote on a district sphere of influence for annexation, data collection mapping. Do we have anything on that?
Just one thing, and what came up at the last meeting that we were talking about, and I was a little bit curious about how the notification and the hearing goes, and I had a conversation with Bud Rice at LAFCO regarding that, and notices just go out to the adjoining districts and not to individuals in the area, and then the hearing is then noticed, and you know that it's a hearing that generally what is focusing on is would our expansion of our district's sphere of influence be an issue with another neighboring district? That's really what that's about. So generally that's why the hearing, but anybody can come to that meeting, that commission meeting, and make a comment. Any person can, but generally it's to districts because the districts don't want to overlap and have, you know, interfering services. So that's
And
what
my,
it's about.
And my understanding, D, is just because we've included someone in our district's sphere of influence does not mean that they are required to annex.
That's correct.
So best to make the sphere of influence as broad as we think our district's ever going to be. And that's the whole point of the MSR, is that we're planning ahead for where we would potentially have our boundaries. And anyone within those boundaries can still not participate in an annexation.
That's correct.
Okay, on to E, discussion vote on project MSR. We, I don't think we have any more
Well,
information.
I don't know. So do we want to move on? Because isn't D supposed to be like mapping our district's sphere of influence? And so if we back on D, if we so that changes some of the hesitancy that he expressed with our general manager at the last meeting.
What,
Correct?
what did I express, Lisa?
Hesitancy on who was within or
Yeah.
how far the boundaries went out.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, I still have that hesitancy just from the standpoint of, you know, let's not cast too big a net. But the other thing that I, you know, John and I were looking at the La Focus property, and I think that property is already included in the proposed annex area, that, you know, in our mapping already, if we have the APN right. And so, yeah, you know, I think beyond that, we can cast the net as far as we feel, you know, is reasonable. Do we want to cast it further and pick up some SEA property? Do we want to go further to the east? And, or do we want to also, you know, cast that net into some of those areas to the south of Fraser Mountain Park Road that did not want to participate, but we think we may service in the future. Now, that the key here is that whatever we cast our net around, we have to then prepare our MSR covering those areas. And as
Correct.
I was just going to say, and I think maybe you were going to say it, Lisa, is that we don't have to have those facilities in place when we do the MSR, but we do have to recognize that facilities would have to be in place in order to, you know, cast the net pretty wide.
Well, we don't have to recognize that we would have to serve them, because my understanding from Bud and from Blair was that just because they're in the sphere of influence does not mean that they're necessarily going to be in an annexation. Those lines can be different.
They
That
are.
you cast the net to make your district what it potentially could ever be, and it doesn't mean that that's what it is.
And when you go to annex, you're annexing just what was the map that we did. And but we'd still have the sphere of influence that includes them, that at a later date, if they wanted to annex in, they could annex in.
correct.
My point is that the MSR has to recognize that boundary and has to discuss how we would serve them if they were. And so the way that we would do that would be, we would discuss that and we would say, well, you know, we would have to have another well, we'd have to have this kind of capacity in order to serve them. And in order to do that, in order to annex them, we would have to have these facilities in place. And I think that's how the MSR plays in on it. We have to kind of look ahead as a planning document. What would we have to do in order to serve them?
Well, and according to them and according to us as well, it would be really important for that MSR to contain all of the information, all the contingencies that would be in place for us to be willing to serve them. So just because they would be in our sphere of influence doesn't mean we would even say we could serve them, because there are contingencies, you know, for that service. So we may have the capacity to serve them, but it doesn't mean that we are able to serve them without getting some sort of additional grant or additional pipeline or, well, grant for additional pipeline. So, I mean, my understanding is just because, like I said, just because they're in the sphere of influence and just because we talk about it in the MSR, there are contingencies that we can put in there that say, we need, for Y, we need X to happen. And if X doesn't happen, then even though we included them in that sphere, that we would not be able to serve them, even though we have the capacity. If we have the capacity. So there would also have to be a contingency for the test wells unless we get the test well work all done before the MSR goes in.
Yeah, we don't have to, just because we cast the net out there doesn't mean that we have to serve them. You're right.
I mean, my understanding is it's a planning tool for far into the future, that if we're doing it now, we may as well be planning the possibility of that. And whether that happens or not is another story. And whether anyone, whether I'm sure that at this point, those property owners do not want to come into the district, but who knows if they're going to have that property forever either. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's already changed hands and they've already changed some of how they want to address things. So I think that the MSR is more of a planning tool for, for a district as opposed to exactly what's going to happen, because you're projecting out into the future for the possibility of covering someone as opposed to actually covering someone because they may or may not want to annex in.
I'm wondering if I need to take the districts, the big map that we have for annexation to Lake of the Woods, or for the consolidation, and then just draw a line around that for discussion purposes for the board. This is some of the adjoining properties that we could cast that net around, and then have a discussion as to, whether we want to go that far or we need to go further or whatever. Get something on paper that the board can look at, and then make some kind of a judgment call as to, where do we really want to go with this? And then, and I guess an example that would be the SEA property. Do we want to go out there? Well, we'll cast a net around it temporarily, or a draft conditional net, and then the board can take a look at it and say, well, what are the pluses and the minuses? Do we want to cover that right now, or do we want to do this later? That kind of thing. But at least it gets something on paper that that we can discuss. I don't think that would take very much. I can draw a line around there and color it and send it off in an 11 by 17 or a couple of them to you folks, and then then we can kind of start thinking about where we want to put that boundary.
Right, because it was my understanding when we talked to LAFCO that the people who annex in, it does not have to be contiguous. You can checkerboard stuff. It's just, that when a district or a community puts out that MSR, like Bakersfield, they draft it, they basically throw that net fairly far so they don't have to
So
keep
is that
doing
what
this
we want
over.
D to do, and how are we going to pay for it?
Well, it's part of this. It's part of this. So either it's part, we had talked about it, it's been part of this project, but because of, reticence on the part of the landowners, some sections did not get included, and because of our misunderstanding of exactly how the sphere of influence works and exactly how the annexation works, I think that we did not understand that clearly at the point where we first, talked
So
about
do we
this.
want D to go ahead and put a map together for us so that we can review it?
Let me,
Well, I
I'm
think
thinking, I don't think, I'm just thinking about what it would take for one of our staff members. I can draw a line around the map and then they can put that in there. Shouldn't be very very expensive, $500 or something like that to get the staff to draw the line and color in the area. It's not going to be a big expense, but it will cost a little bit.
Okay.
But basically, my understanding is we have to revise the map anyway. Is that not correct? The map is not correct. And so that map that we submitted for this project, for the sphere of influence, has to be done either way. So it's only adding a small amount, and most of these properties are already part of that map. It just adds potentially a small amount of properties that opted out of the annexation. But my understanding it with Bud and Blair is that you put them on the sphere of influence anyway, because they don't have to be part of the annexation.
Yeah.
But it gives the potential, if they want to annex later, if they decided that they were crazy and they should have come into the project, it gives that possibility of annexation. It's much easier because you already have the sphere of influence drawn out.
So we're gonna have him put the map together.
Or do we want to talk to Lawrence first and try to get some other things kind of lined out budget wise before we go down that path? And then, then maybe we could put that in as another line item along
Don't
with
you-
MSR.
Don't you already
budget.
have the sphere of influence you already have that in your engineering, is that not correct? Or was that only in the pre-planning?
Yeah, I don't have the sphere of influence and really anything budgetary at all, Lisa. But I depending on what we want to do, it's not a big deal. I think it's going to take more time to decide, do we really want to include like the mobile home park, Mr. Connor's mobile home park? Do we want to cast the net around that? So, I think,
I thought we already did, we just weren't including him in the annexation. I
no,
believe.
we haven't drawn any SOI maps at all. The SOI right now is concurrent with the district boundary.
No, that's not correct. We do have a SOI map. The SOI map is what we prepared and gave to LAFCO in the pre-planning.
But that was contiguous with what contiguous map of the Lake of the Woods and everything.
Right, that's right.
Everything was the same. We didn't make any changes to it.
Right, but I believe it actually does include the mobile home park. It just doesn't include them in the annexation.
No, there's nothing prepared from the standpoint of
So it
an
just
SOI.
goes, it just goes right to their boundary.
The annexation map covers only those parcels that wanted to be annexed. And then I think we had the church come along later after we'd already made 2 changes to the annexation map. Because we did have the mobile home park in there, I think, at one time. Anyway, we finally decided on what that boundary was going to be. And that one was the one that was submitted to the county surveyor and approved. And so that became our annexation map.
But it ran contiguous. It's also our sphere of influence map. It just ran contiguous. Correct? Like you have to do a sphere of influence before you can do an annexation. So it was both. So our sphere of influence that we drew for this project is the same as our annexation map, and it just didn't have any differences on it. And you're saying currently it does not include the mobile home park. It includes part of Saya. It includes the La Foca property, probably. It includes part of what we were already talking about with the test well sites. So it includes some stuff, but not, it doesn't include the LDS church.
Right. And we thought we'd add that, back when we thought we were going to get this thing done pretty quickly, we thought that we'd get the map approved and we get the annexation once, we get that approved and get our mapping approved. And then adding them is a pretty simple thing. Once we have the district boundary, that can just be annexed. So that's how, as I recall, we were going to do the church.
Okay,
Um,
so I'm just, what do we keep talking about it, but what are we going to do? I mean,
So, okay, so D, the district sphere of influence for annexation needs to also be included because because all of that stuff was in our pre-planning project and D never accounted for it as part of this because we thought it was going to be done and it's not. So I think whatever line item or however we choose to deal with the MSR, we need to deal with the sphere of influence, the
Right.
SOI, the MSR, and the MSU or MOU.
MOU.
MOU. Too many acronyms. The MOU.
Yeah,
so we'll have a meeting with Lawrence next Friday, and we'll talk about all of this and about adding that into the contract.
Correct.
okay. Good. I'm good with that.
But is there any cost that Fraser Park's gonna have to for the sphere of influence pay for, because we're adding some?
No, we're not adding other stuff that would be outside of this project
Okay,
because it would all have to be what the test wells would have to accommodate for this, or we couldn't annex the stuff anyway.
okay. All right, on to E. The
I believe,
municipal,
am I wrong about that? I mean, there was money included in our, that was something we were supposed to do on the pre-planning, but it just never, we never got finished. We thought it was finished and it wasn't finished. And the reason why we left some people off of it was because we were not given correct information. And that is why stuff was left off, because had we understood that they don't have to annex in, then we would have made the sphere of influence different than, and they were saying that, it just wasn't clear. Now that we've had numerous conversations with LAFCO, it's much clearer.
okay, on to E. Discussion vote on municipal service review. So this is all part of that discussion. And we still have to talk about, what is it? Ramesh?
Bravish.
Ravish. So do we need to have a meeting with him? Because we need to get some, because we need to get some indication what the costs are to go to Lawrence.
Right,
that.
but I think that we may have to talk to Lawrence first, then talk to Bravish, and then in our meeting on the third week, talk to Lawrence again once we have an idea of the actual amounts.
So we'll have to set up a meeting the following week after the following week.
Correct.
Do we want to see a time for the second week of March?
I thought we were going to do that on the 18th.
Well, that's talking to Lawrence again.
Right, but we need to talk to Bravish before we talk to Lawrence again. So we need to talk to Lawrence on the 5th. We need to talk to Bravish sometime the week of the 8th. And we need to talk to Lawrence again on the 18th when we do the state meeting so that we can hammer out whatever amounts we need to put in the document that D is working or gave us today,
Okay.
or
Got it.
gave us, we were supposed to vote on today, that we're not going to vote on until the 25th.
So you can, because we have a water board on the 11th. So, I mean, that week, D, just let me know with Bravish. I'm pretty much open, except for Wednesday morning. Other than that, of that week.
I'm open on the 9th anytime, and I'm not open on the 10th.
Ravish on the 9th, then I think the 9th is probably, I'm looking at my calendar too. And if Rama, if you're good on the 9th and Lisa,
I'm good on the 9th.
okay, and I'm good on the 9th. So I'll try to schedule something with Ravish, March 9th.
Okay,
Say around 10 o'clock.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
10 o'clock is good with me.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Um,
all right. Okay, we finished this discussion at 7:27. Uh, We're on to 5, discussion vote update on Fraser Park Public Utility District, and I think we've lost Director Gibson.
What about F, claim 7?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's not,
F,
yeah.
discussion vote update on Claim 7 and other claims and payout. That's you, Dave.
not till next month.
Okay, the claim 6 was approved for payment, short of, I think, $16.40.
Okay,
And
but we have not received the check yet, but it's been approved.
it's
You guys are out of order because this is claim 7.
right. And other claims and payouts.
It says other claims and
Okay.
payouts. We're not out of
Okay,
order.
so
And that brings us to
That's
claim
good.
7, which will be prepared to cover the December, January, and February, and that goes in for board approval in March.
So for the end of month, March, we'll have it before then.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, nothing else?
That's it, unless in the future you might want to consider going to monthly claims when you are under construction.
That's what I would recommend, certainly. Monthly would be better.
Yeah, just more work for us. Okay.
Well, it is, but it's kind of less work because you're knocking it down. You're doing 1/3 of the work monthly as you would, every 90 days.
Yeah, it still takes about the
Right,
same
but we-
time, but it's fine.
but we don't want to vote on that until closer to the actual construction
Yeah.
of the test.
Okay, on to 5.
Correct, Dave? Can you see any before you move on? And then we need a time out too, but Dave, can you see any reason to vote on that before April?
Well, before construction, so you're prepared, and that's something to discuss with,
That's way out.
you can discuss that in the next meeting with the next ad hoc with everybody and Lawrence, just to get his feel for how to do that. And if the board decides to go forward and do that, that would at least take place in prior to construction.
So it'd probably be after claim 8,
No,
between
Claim 8.
7 and 8.
yeah, it'd be after claim 7. So it'd be discussing that probably in March. I'd recommend discussing that with Lawrence in March, in April, no later than April, because construction could start in end of April or May, as Dee suggested.
Oh, what you're talking about the drilling.
Yeah,
Yeah, for the test well, yeah.
right.
Test wells.
So you want to go to a monthly on that when we start doing
That's your guys' decision, because.
Okay, because of the high cost and how much, so
Well,
they could
because the
submit bills.
Because the construction people are gonna want to get paid more often than what's happening now, because we're like way out. So, D, who's getting, who knows we're good for it, is okay with it, but I doubt that they're gonna be okay with us waiting 3 months plus to get paid each time.
Right.
The state requires you to pay the contractor within 30 days of an approved claim. So they may not get you the money promptly, but you have to pay the contractor. So,
Yeah, okay, we'll have to,
And we'll be in trouble if we're having to pay that because we'll run out of money. So we have to go to monthly, but we can talk to him about it.
sure.
okay. All right, on to 5. It's
Okay, so-
7:31.
Perfect. You.
5, discussion vote on update on Fraser Park Public Utility District meter replacement project and emergency replacement well and water supply project. Whew.
That's Oscar. Oscar's been he's been sick, so I'm covering for him.
Okay.
And, they are the state grant application. I know, and Tiffany, you may want to weigh in on this, that the state was asking for some dates and timeframes. And I guess you folks were considering how far back to go to try to get state funds to pay. But in an email that Lawrence had, he sent today, which he had indicated earlier, that if he needs this information pretty quick, the dates on how far back you want to go to charge costs to. And he wanted to, but the positive part of this is that, is that he was basically saying what would be typically at this point, I have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time to review these items. So I need this exercise to be wrapped up this week or next week at the latest if we want to fund this project by this fiscal year. So in that reference, he's talking about, I need this information if you want this, if we want to get this project funded by this fiscal year ends in June. So he needs that information pretty quick on the application. I know that was a question that Tiffany had forwarded to him because that we talked about it at the how much can the district get reimbursed for costs that they haven't gotten paid for. But I would recommend getting an answer to him. He said this week, at the latest next week.
And I would think that since we're going to get roughly $3.5 million, and we were planning on having to pay for the well ourselves, that if we didn't get stuff all the way back to 2017 or 2018, that we would still be coming out far ahead if we got funded before the end of the fiscal year.
Right, but why aren't we able to get that information together?
Well, what information?
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
Tiffany could explain more, but like today we had the guys pull the boxes back from 2017 from the lower office. So every box is going to have to be gone through from 2017 till now to try to find the invoices. But again, Tiffany's going to have more of an update on that. Maybe she's heard back from Lawrence by now.
I think that's the email that Dave was referring to, but I did ask Lawrence how far back we can go because I did see invoices from D. Jaspar for work on the meter replacement that go back to 2017. But Lawrence said, no, we can't go that far back. He said only any claims that, I believe he said since the application was submitted. Is that correct, Dave? Because I don't have the email in front of me.
Yeah, but I think some of those, and Carlos, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, Carlos is working on that project. I mean, we paid for a lot of the engineering report and the CEQA documentation and stuff like that back then on it. So we paid for those costs. I don't know if we paid for meeting costs or not. Is that correct,
Do you
Carlos?
is it possible to get a list of what was paid for from you guys?
We have a contract. We have contracts for what the work was done. Yes. But the point I think is that I don't know how much money you folks are really out of on that doing the meter application because self-help was paying for a lot of that, the engineering and the environmental work.
Yeah, we did pay for the feasibility study. I do.
Okay.
On
And the
the
plans,
meter,
and we did the plans and specs too, right?
I believe everything, all the work that D did, I think came out of our contract. If I'm not, but I could be mistaken. It's been a while.
No, I think that's correct. I think you paid for all of that, Dave.
I would just say, maybe just to look from the time we submitted. Are you talking about, we just submitted it a couple months ago, right?
No, you
That's the
submitted,
meter, but what about the well? Because the well,
Well, the well was paid by Irwin
No.
mostly.
Yeah.
I mean, we started a few costs, but those are way back. That's over a
Yeah.
year ago, and he's not gonna recover that. So I think we're gonna be wasting a lot of time trying to, you know, spend several dollars looking for something that, I think we should just go forward. I think maybe Tiffany can look at the date that we submitted the contract and look at that short period of time and see if there are any invoices that Fraser Park paid to like D Jasper and Associates. And if we have those, then she can submit those. If we don't have anything else, then we should just go forward. So, because I don't want to hold up Lawrence, because he's talking about getting it financed by the end of this fiscal year, and that's awesome. That's awesome news for us.
and he needs this information no later than this next week.
Yeah, so why don't we shoot for, we try to find whatever invoices we can on Monday and have them sent off by the end of the day on Monday.
And what he wants is a date you go back to for eligible for funding. And in other words, you have a date in there that this is how far back we have invoices for or costs that we could charge to. It's just part
and
of.
he's saying that date previous to the application, because the application would normally be the date. Isn't that correct?
You can have stuff prior to that. It's just that's what they need to have in the funding agreement. They need to have the funding agreement has to have dates on it, and they want to know how far back you're going to provide. You could potentially charge, and I mean everything. The costs, your costs are already in the. If you're going to add costs to the application, then you need to find them, update the application with those added costs. And I don't know that you're going to have, you could do it, but I don't know that you have time to do that.
So you're saying all the costs are already, the current costs are all in the application. But I thought he was asking about, and I thought we were asking about other costs that had incurred, like with D, before the application was or will be approved. So when the application is approved, that's when the cost would normally be chargeable to. But he's asking previous to the application being approved, because it's still not approved or funded, how far back we want to go. Am I wrong?
If you had costs that were related, but on the well, I mean, the engineer's report was paid for and the design was paid for with IRWIMP funds.
So all the expensive stuff was paid for with their earwimp.
Yeah. Yeah, for well 5,
So
for
the
well 5 replacement.
The extra stuff that we did on the well 5 replacement D with all of the documentation for this application that we had to change, is that paid for? No, or is that payable out of the extension of the IRWIMP funds that you asked for?
Say that again, Lisa. Is on well 5 the
Okay, on well 5, we had IRWIMP funds, and you actually asked for additional IRWIMP funds.
yes.
Okay, you put in extra work that you billed for on the, because we had to go back over the PER and update it and change stuff for this application. Are those charges covered right now, or do we need, because those charges are probably not on the application? So Dave, you're saying that we would have to put, or are they on the application? I'm a little confused. So like all the extra charges that D was doing on the PER, is that payable on the IRWIMP if there's extra stuff that's not on the application, because there was like a chunk of extra stuff.
He asked for the extra funds. I don't know. I can't speak to that.
Yeah, the extra funds were funds to complete the design. And, you know, on the PER, Lisa, we just did what we could, and I don't think I didn't even keep track of the time that I spent on it, just because I just knew we were limited. So anyhow, I don't even have any invoices or track. I didn't keep track of the time that it took me to revise that, the PER,
I,
you know.
I thought okay, so I'm confused because I thought we had invoices. So I'm
I
just
don't think
confused on
so.
the invoice that
I'm
we've
not
gotten.
sure. I don't think I
Well,
did.
this- But this is really a time
Yeah,
restraint.
I understand that. So I'm just asking, are those chargeable to Irwin?
Well, not
you
if
asked
we
for-
paid it already, they're not chargeable because we've already, if we paid something, we paid it.
yeah.
If Fraser Park paid it, we paid it. So, I mean, the only question that I would have is I thought that Tiffany was keeping invoices together for all of well 5.
Yeah, if we
What-
billed, well, you know, I just don't remember, but I don't think that I don't think that we did. But Tiffany, you can,
Tiffany, can you say something as to what you have or what you don't have?
So I can look back. I've been going through all of the most recent DJasper invoices all the way back, I think through current back to September, and there are no charges, at least in that time frame, for well 5. Everything was charged to Irwin.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so, I mean, I guess the question is, I mean, is it gonna be that much? And I guess we could have Tiffany look, but what is the date? What was the date that Lawrence said was the cutoff, though?
The
I
date the application was submitted, or
And what date was that?
I don't think it's the submittal of the application, Tiffany. I think
Well,
it's
if, whatever he said in the email, I
I'm
haven't
gonna
read
pull
the
up the
email.
email. Hold on, I have to pull it up on a different device. Hold on one second.
Okay,
because I think it's when it's approved, when he funds it, and then we just have to give him a date.
well, just wait, Lisa, we just have to wait until what Lawrence said in the email. That's gonna
I'm
clarify
looking it up
everything.
right now. Did I
Okay,
get that
so
too?
here's his email. Hi, Tiffany. What would be helpful is to know what the Irwin funding covered and the time window for that work. I don't think it would be appropriate to cover anything until after that project was complete. Typically, we would consider costs from the application on. We know some of this was covered by self-help enterprise, so that needs to be included in the discussion. At this point, I don't have a lot of time to review these items, so I would need this exercise to be wrapped up by this week or next week at the latest, if we want to fund this by this fiscal year.
So that's our bottom line.
Yep.
He's got to have it by next week, period.
Yeah, we understand that part.
Who wants to break out what was
You know,
funded by Irwin?
Linda Sheldon has some bills that she holds aside for some plans in case we need them. They're in I believe, the second drawer in the office. I don't know if any of that has anything to do with what you're talking about right now.
It doesn't.
So, I mean, anything else you're talking about?
Tiffany
Mr.
tracks
Kane?
that stuff.
No,
Okay.
yeah, Linda doesn't
All right.
have it.
Okay, all right, fine.
So I'm sorry, Tiffany. So that's from the date we submitted the application or the date that the application is approved?
He said typically we would consider costs from the application on. So he
Okay.
doesn't think it's appropriate to go back. To
So then
cover
I think we
anything
just give him
until-
that date. So then he just does from the date of the application, which is when, like last year, like,
Well, it's when we added, which was only a few months ago.
So are you
well,
guys
no,
missing?
No, wouldn't it be from the original application for the meters?
What were you
is
gonna
it-
say, Dave?
Well, how much do you expect? Well, I I'll stay out of it.
It's such a negligible amount. What I think we're trying to say is it's a very small amount for getting such a large amount for free if we just tell Lawrence, look, we're good, because it's still giving us all that free money. The well, we anticipated spending a lot of money on the well out of our own pocket. Now we don't have to spend any of that money on the well. It's always good to get money back, but I don't think there's enough to merit possibly going past the end of this fiscal year and then hoping that they have money next year to fund us.
Right, but all he needs is a date, correct?
Well, right, it said the date of the application. The application, he's talking about, you're not gonna have any bills for the meter project. He's talking about well 5. You cannot, we didn't add well 5 until like maybe 2 months ago. So you're not gonna be able to add anything way prior to that. So, I mean, you're only talking about a couple months. I mean, Tiffany can look and see if there is anything, but I don't think it's gonna be that much.
So you're saying all the meter stuff that Dee did was paid for by TA money?
Yes.
Okay, if all of the meter was paid for by TA money and the PER for the well was paid for by IRWIMP, and we already ate the 97,000 because that's not going to be paid for by anybody, and we already know that, then I don't understand what those costs, there wouldn't be that many additional costs. So
Right.
the date should just be the date that we submitted the application. Because Lawrence is saying that he doesn't really see going before that anyway.
Right, and that's what I just said. So why don't you just look, Tiffany,
Yeah.
and see if it's that, then you can get with Dave to see if we can get it. If there's anything, if it's enough, then we'll upload it. If it's not, we're not going to worry about it.
Okay, I'll do that on Monday and see what I come up with.
Is the board in agreement with that? Director Garcia? Oh, Dave, you want something?
Dave's got something to say.
What date are you going with?
The date of the application.
The one from a couple of months ago when the well was included with
when
the
the
smart
well
meter
was
project, so whatever
included.
date that is.
Whatever date that is. Are you in agreement, Director Garcia?
I am. Go ahead.
Director Gibson?
Yes,
Director Kelling?
yes.
Director Schoenberg? I'm Director Nyman, I am. Director
Yes,
Schoen-
yeah, the date of, I just want to make sure this is clear, the date that we submitted the joint application.
The joint application, correct. Which I don't think that there's that many, there will be that much. I don't think there'll be any, but we'll see what we have.
And Tiffany, you didn't really find
What you got,
stuff
Mama?
for them because that should have been paid for by IRWIMP and TA funds,
Correct.
Yes.
other than any like legal stuff, right? Which wouldn't have been paid for by that, but I don't know how much that would be. And I'm in agreement because I don't want to have to put in another application.
Yeah, we need to be happy, be happy. We need to accept our great blessing of $3.5 million project. That would be incredible to get it before the end of the fiscal year. Okay, moving on to 6, discussion vote on self-help enterprises pandemic relief.
This is me.
Dave, yes.
Um, You folks had, at the earlier, you had received funds from self-help for the pandemic relief. And the question came up about doing a big thank you publicly and so forth. I talked with our folks at the office, and the organization's position is we don't want to do a big broadcast. We don't want to do a broadcast at all.
Okay,
We just a simple letter thanking us, that's fine. But we and if people, you want to let people know that it's an anonymous donation and type of thing. So it's funds that we're passing through to help the district with COVID issues.
okay, so we'll just won't do any press on that then.
Right. That's the,
Or if we wanted to do press, you're just saying we should not name the source. It was a donation.
yeah, we'd prefer that.
And then also the further thing on that is the fear is that when you go to press, then there's going to be tons
Somebody
of
who
people,
didn't
everybody-
get it.
everybody call and say, why didn't I get mine? When am I going to get mine? It's not fair. As it
Right.
is, I think it's better just going the way that we're doing it.
Yeah, I don't think we should do press on it. I agree with that. Because you know, they approved what they approved and yeah, I agree
I
with
agree.
that. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I'm glad we got something. We helped the community and thank you. We thank Self-Help Enterprises and that's great. And we'll move on.
And then Brahma, the final update is that I wanted to confirm we did receive the funds from self-help and all of the accounts were credited.
Okay.
That's done.
All right. Sounds good. 7, discussion vote update on pipeline replacement project.
John?
Yeah. We got nothing on that on the pipeline.
Okay. 8,
The only thing I had on that was we had to submit a list of projects for the next safer round of funding, and you folks had talked about as having this as a consolidation incentive project, the pipeline replacement in the district. So they have those so you'd have an application for the pipeline replacement that has to be developed. There's a TA request out there that was submitted over a year ago, but we don't have the current Prop 1 funds to cover it. And so we put this in as a request for being a technical assistance under the SAFER project, because the regional project is like a SAFER project, and we're going to be switching it over to that. And these funds, which would need to be done, the application would be have to be developed parallel. And there is some work that's cost to locating those pipelines and developing an engineer's report for cost. So we want to get that money out of the SAFER funds. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that we've put that in as a project to be funded with our self-help technical assistance funding for the upfront work, engineering and stuff like that.
fantastic.
But we don't know what they'll say. We'll find out.
Okay. Okay, number 8, vote on emergency repairs. Wolf Booster takes that. Vote on engineering and inspection costs.
So before we vote, I had the same sort of issue on this, even though it's an after the fact discussion, because we never did put a contract in place. But
What? Director Sager?
I got cut off. Every time someone calls me, it cuts me off. It bounces me off of Zoom. So what I was saying is I'm trying to find these information. So I had the same
She got cut off again.
Okay, I got cut off again. So what I was, are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Because you all look frozen for a minute on my screen. Okay, sorry, when someone calls, I'm on my phone, and when someone calls, it cuts me off from Zoom. The same issue is that the inspection is not a separate cost on this. It just falls under administration, and again, it means that there's no way for us to really track sort of I mean, you have inspection, but it kind of all falls under one thing. And so when you give the fees for that, for, December, January, anticipated February, March, April, they're all together as construction, staking, submittal review, RFI responses, project meetings, and construction inspection. And they all run together instead of anything being separated out.
D.
Writing notes. We can, I'm trying to think of what Curtis submitted. I read what he submitted. I think he was projecting forward there.
Yeah, he's projecting forward, but I'm just saying it all runs together so that when the amounts are given, it's all one lump thing that covers everything. And it doesn't really break stuff out, which, I just think it's helpful to have a projection of, what something like inspection is actually costing.
We break that out and can break that out on our billings. All those different components, and we can separate it out and categorize it by bill. A separate invoice for what would be inspection, a separate one for submittal review, and a separate one, for all of those different things that we do during these type of projects. And we can do that as we go forward. I think we can do it in arrears too. And might pretty well have done it, except we never broke them out. We submitted one bill that said, this is what we did, this is what we did, this is what we did this day, and that kind of thing.
Right.
We'll
It's helpful for us, and next time, D, we just really need to do it in the contract, because what happens is we start going, well, we didn't anticipate for the cost. Like, we didn't anticipate engineering was going to be $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where that's coming from. So it just helps us to understand and anticipate, those funds and where they're coming from. We needed to do this no matter what, and I know we told you to go ahead and go forward. So this is a little bit different because it was sort of like an emergency start of construction, but just for this, it'll be helpful for us, and it'll be helpful for us to be able to figure out for additional, because we're going to have to do some additional probably on the pipeline or whatever funding. I mean, I don't know. So it's just helpful for us, I think, if that's broken out.
Okay.
That's my opinion. I don't know what anything, but that was my comment on the letter.
So are you asking this to be, the letter to be updated?
Dee's saying he's going to put it on the
Billing?
It's just a letter. It's not a contract. So Dee's saying he's going to just break it out on the billing, and I think that's fine so that we can track that and understand it. And I'm just saying, like, next time we should do a contract between
Right.
us,
I
and that all that should
totally
be
agree.
spelled out in the contract.
But,
We just
so,
missed the boat on that because we were in a hurry to get it.
right, so we need to, so the total cost of engineering costs for the Wolf project is $53,339.42. And I would entertain a motion that we approve this letter from D. Jasper and Associates.
A question. It's
Yes,
going to be from November to April. It's going to be the 53,000.
right.
We've already
that's-
paid some, right?
That's correct. We still have to approve it. See, what happened is we didn't, we had told him to go forward and we
No, I
got,
understand that, but if we're going to approve it, don't we need to approve the whole
I
thing, not just?
I don't think we
Well-
need to approve that letter because we don't have a contract. It's not a contract. I think it's just them spelling out what they're doing. And I think that if he's breaking down the billing, it just, you know, I mean, the only thing, because he doesn't have a not to exceed on this, right? I mean, it's not a contract unless we're using the letter as a contract. So what are we voting to approve?
You know, we can do a not to exceed and, you know, normally we could, on something like that, we normally say not to exceed this unless something changes. You know, like you just never know how long a contractor is going to take and you don't have any control over it. And so, you know, you've got something that you know, we're trying to give our best estimate of what we think it will be. And sometimes it's less. We're always hoping it's less. And we try to make our budgets high enough that they'll cover that. But then if something changes, like the contractor stretches this out to September, which he won't, and we'd all be fired if he did. But nevertheless, you know, if something happens so that it extended the amount of time, then, you know, we would say, you know, this is a not to exceed without further authorization from the board of directors. That's kind of how we do it. And then we, you know, we get there, before we get there, we say, whoa, something's going on here. You know, the contractors, you know, for whatever reason, something didn't come in, or it came in, but it was wrong, or now he has to take something out and we have to re-inspect that. He has to say, order a new pump or piping or something like that, that extends it. And, you know, it's of no fault of anybody's. And so on things like that, then we say, look, you know, this is what's happening. And, you know, we need another, you know, 2 or 3 weeks of inspection time. And we would make an estimate on that. So those are the ways we normally cover those things that we really don't have control over. And so we can say, generally, it's a not to exceed without further authorization from the board.
so,
I'm not interested in voting right now on this letter because I'm asking that he separate out construction administration and inspection costs, which are not separate right now, just like on the other one. So it's just kind of all lumped into one thing. And I don't think, you know,
I
mean,
would like a motion that we put, just do a motion that the contract amount should not exceed the 53,000 unless authorized by the board. That's what I would like to see us do tonight.
Well, okay. I would like the other stuff that I mentioned, so then I will abstain from that, but go ahead.
Well,
Well,
I can't-
it's still going to be the same, even if he breaks it out into different places. I mean, a different grouping. I mean, the engineering and the inspection, you know, I mean, it's all in there. It's just, so he puts 5,000 and 5,000, or, you know, still gonna be
Yeah,
the 10,000. So.
I know. It's gonna be the same no matter what, because this isn't a contract. I mean, it's gonna be what it costs.
So.
What I'm,
But I still think we should vote to have that what Dee just said, though, even though you're not approving a contract, because we're going to pay the cost anyways.
Right.
I'm,
Okay.
what
But
I,
are you redoing this letter, D?
no, what I was suggesting was that, that we break down our billings into inspection, submittal review, outside testing, any outside testing we have to do, for instance, concrete testing, those kind of things, and then contractor communications, which involves reviewing the contractor's request for payment. And we go through and we look at the site and we say, okay, well, you got this done, but you didn't get that done. And so we're not going to pay you for this. And there's a bit of negotiation that goes on. They say, well, wait a minute, we got the material, it's in our storage yard. And so we say, okay, well, show it to us. So we go to the storage yard and we identify it. Say, okay, he's got it in the storage yard. We'll pay, 95% or 90% of that amount for a pump, say, for instance, or something like that. And so those are the kind of things that go on as the contract and the contractor proceeds, through his contract, through his construction. And so what I'm thinking is that we'll break, I was just writing Curtis an email and saying, so that we can, if I do it now, I won't forget to do it tomorrow. And so I'm asking him to break down the billing, separate bills that would be for those specific things that we do during a construction project like this. If it's layout, like we have to send our surveyor up to do something, then then that would be also separately billed. If it's
So it'd be on separate invoices, is what
yeah,
you're saying.
separate invoices. And so we can break it down that way, because we're right in the middle of this thing now.
I know. Yeah, that's all I'm asking, is that I know we're right in the middle of it, and it doesn't make any sense to I think we just need to understand the billing. That's all.
Yeah, and part of the setting a hard cap on it without going back to the board is there's been one instance at Wolf Tank, which you guys knew about after the fact. But if something does happen and I need somebody to come up and I need to make a decision because it's going to cost an extra $500 or $1,000, we don't want to have to wait 2 weeks till the board meeting to get approval for something that because I always reach out to a couple board members anyway before I would approve something like that. But I mean, you could set like a cap, but just not a really hard definitive cap, and take it from there. Because I think the project starting in the beginning of March is probably going to start moving along pretty quickly.
I think, me personally, I don't think that we necessarily need that. I think we just need to be aware of what each cost is, and
Yeah.
it's not clear right now. So that I think would be more helpful, because I don't think, I think it's going to cost what it's going to cost. We have to do it anyway. We didn't do a contract, I'm just saying that it would be nice to have all.
Okay, Dee, you're in agreement that this is what the estimated cost is. If it's going to be more than that, you're going to come to the board and give us authorization, correct?
yes.
Okay, thank you. We can move on. Number 9, review and approve state update meeting minutes 2/18/21.
I read them. I didn't see any mistakes.
Yeah, I didn't find any either. So I would entertain a motion that we approve the minutes. Does somebody want to do that, or does somebody else did you read them, Director Schoenberg?
I did. I'm a little tired, so they looked correct.
Okay. So would somebody like to make a motion to approve these minutes?
I will make a motion that we approve the minutes for Thursday, February 18th, 2021. The meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. With the standard possibility for corrections or anything that we
Oh,
have.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, with the possibility for any corrections or typos that are
We
found.
may not have caught, yeah.
I'll
Do I
second
hear-
that.
Okay, Director Garcia, second it. Roll call of directors, Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Gibson,
Aye.
Director Kelling,
Aye.
Director Nyman's and I, Director Schoenberg.
Aye.
Okay, 500, motion carried. Do we want to just go into, so with that, we don't have D and,
Well, before you do that quickly, can we go back to item, before we go to financial business, can we go back to item, what is it? It has to do with the, wording for the, consolidation planning project. It's only a second, so it shouldn't matter that we worry about the time. But, I forgot to note that the typo on the attachment A. Are we okay to go back to that for just a second,
yes,
everybody?
yes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so just D on attachment A under number 2, there's just a weird typo where you have it with a period that just is like in the middle of a sentence. It's not supposed to be capitalized in period. It's just supposed to be part of that sentence. Attachment A, number 2, down towards the bottom of number 2, it says it will then be submitted to both boards. You have
Oh.
it, period,
Yes.
will then be submitted to both boards, just so I didn't mention it when we were in the middle of it, but since you're redoing some of this, you may want to change that.
I can do that. I've got it marked.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
okay. So that's it, D. You don't have to stay with us if you'd like to go.
Thank you, D.
We're gonna go into financial business now, so I take it we want to skip the break and go into, just go straight in?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, so,
Everybody have a good evening.
Thank
you,
you.
D.
D.
Night, guys.
Good
so
night.
this one is Linda. Couple things
Well, let's go outside.
that I wanted to bring to your attention. One is that I on the ADP, when you have you're using their envelope and they have their return submittal, you have to put it inside the envelope. I had to unstaple one and rip it off to be able to put it together. Also, so the ADP one, I guess I need to get another envelope because we don't have the submittal for this one. So,
Okay, sorry.
yeah, no, it's
Okay.
fine. I'm just kind of bringing it to your attention. Also, I had two things that we need to look out for. One is on Webster Gases equipment, when you get a statement, and like on this one, there was a statement and then they had one invoice attached to the statement. So the one invoice was for $59.88, and then it showed on the statement a prior invoice that was 1 to 30 days, $53.92. So you made the check for $113.80, and we're going to have that check recut for for just the 5988 because I went back to the office and checked in the drawer and verified that we have already paid that previous invoice.
Okay,
So whenever you have a statement, if the statement has stuff on there and it doesn't have the invoice, you're going to need to look in your files to make sure that we haven't prepaid these already.
that's correct.
So that happened on that one. I did want to bring to the board's attention, and it's not a big amount. And that's how I caught this. That there was also, I'm trying to find it.
M&S Security.
Oh, M&S Security. Yeah, that's correct. M&S Security. So we had an invoice for $10, and
Right.
you made the check for 45. It did end up being correct only because I went back through the files, and apparently the previous bookkeeper did not pay a $20 change charge, and so we've since accumulated, and we didn't catch it, so we've accumulated an extra $15 in late charges. $5
Separate late fees.
$5 in late fees every 2 months, and
Oh.
so our account balance is $45. We have to pay that amount, so we are going to pay that. I did the research. I went through the files and found that out. So
Okay.
and Director Schoenberg, you had some things.
Yeah, the Kern County Public, what's that whole, I just have the check detail, but it says it's
Yeah.
classified under reconnection. That's not
Uh-huh.
correct. That's classified under, I believe that was a trucking or something with Phil, or I don't know. I'm not sure, Johnny, what that was, but I don't believe it's a reconnection fee.
I don't know what it was either. If it's for Kern County, I mean, it wouldn't be a
No,
reconnection.
it says truck. Yeah, it says truck. I don't know because I don't have any.
I'm pulling it. I gotta find it.
I don't think it, does anybody have the bill with them?
I do. Just hold on a
Okay.
second, please.
Yeah, okay.
So the bill, Johnny, just what it says is OAP, and then it says a receipt number on the 7th of January. It said loaded weight 314, and they charged us $22. And
All I
then,
could think of is that must be for the dump.
Yeah, that's what it sounds
That's
like.
that's for the dump. We have a charge account there, and when we take loads down there, they charge us, and then they bill us later on.
So
okay,
what
so
is that?
Does
normally
it say waste? Doesn't, it's Kern County Public Waste, right? Is
says
that the name of the bill?
Kern County Public Works.
Oh, works, okay.
Yeah,
So
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 right,
Johnny,
I'm sorry.
so where's that supposed to be allocated to?
It would be
Where's
under
that supposed to
distribution. It would be under distribution because we were throwing away distribution
Okay.
stuff that we can't throw in our trash bin.
Okay.
Okay, so we need to reclassify that.
Okay.
You wanted
and
to,
then I just had a question on the bill for USA Blue Book. What 6 GPD? But I don't know. I know that you
That's 6 gallon per day hypochlorinator. It's a pump that pumps the chlorine into the water system, and it's sitting in my office right now. It's a backup pump for when one of them goes out.
okay.
So
But do we just want that? So that's how much
Just-
money? It's only 600, right? So you just have it under distribution.
yeah, that's just distribution. And again, it'll sit in my office till we need to use it.
Okay, so that's not a tool.
No, it's not a tool. It's
Oh.
in both well houses, well 6 and well 5. And when the well kicks on, it kicks on and starts pumping chlorine.
Okay, so it's a pump. So
It's a pump. Yeah, it's no different than
yeah, I
booster
mean,
pump.
okay, so we don't want it in the new classification of pumps and all that stuff.
No, it's not a asset. It's a consumable. I mean, they only last for so long,
Okay.
and then they
Yeah,
fail.
I just wanted to double check.
Okay.
on that. Okay.
So it is an expense then, okay. Okay, so that's okay.
Yeah, that one's okay. I just didn't know what it was. Okay, yeah, I think that's all I have. The only other thing on Ferguson is just where some of that stuff was for. I just want to make sure none of it was for Wolf or anything. It's that's all stuff that's
No, it's all Ferguson is just stock.
okay.
The only exception was we covered it last meeting, I believe, where I bought the new booster. Oh, yeah, that wasn't even Ferguson anyway. Yeah, so all the Ferguson stuff is stock.
Also, the Kern, the base that you bought from Kern, was that was it for Elm Trail and?
Yeah, it said M Trail and trailer, right?
Well,
Yeah,
because the invoice says truck boxes to Elm Trail, trailer in yard.
Yeah, well, see, the way it works is half the load, he can't take a whole semi truck. So the trailer gets dumped in our yard for storage till we need it. Then
Right.
just the diesel itself can go up to Elm Tank, and then we store it at Elm Tank itself because a lot of our leaks are in that area. So it's easier to get to it on a leak than bringing it all the way back from the yard. So it's not the stuff we have in stock isn't for a specific road right now. It's for need in the future.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Okay, so
That's
go
all
ahead. Okay, we need to discuss the 1099s.
Okay, so I guess that Linda Sheldon sent you guys the 1099s.
Mm-hmm.
I got an email, so you all have the emails that she filed. So
No.
I suggest that you use what she filed because she filed to the IRS.
But I don't have mine.
Yeah, they never got they never got them. Linda Sheldon kept saying, "I mailed them, I mailed them, I mailed them."
Tiffany
sent them out today, I believe.
Tiffany sent an email that we can print out. So
okay,
and also she did do the 1099 as miscellaneous in number 3.
Yeah, can I explain that for a minute?
which is wrong. Which is wrong. I want to let you know it's wrong.
It's not. It is absolutely not wrong.
I have it.
No.
I have right here from the
Hey,
IRS.
hey,
It says
Linda, do me a favor, please. I told you when you started that the board has hammered out all the details of this over the years. Each time we get a new bookkeeper, we got to go through this again, and they filed each time correctly under miscellaneous. So when you change it, it messes everybody up. So we need you to file it the way the board directs you to file
this year, Johnny, but you see, you don't understand. This year they changed. All.
Okay, can we stop for 1 minute and let me explain
Okay,
it?
let Director Schoenberg speak first, Linda, and then you'll have an opportunity to share what you need to share.
Okay, so here's the deal. Yes, I understand that they changed it this year. So there's 2 different 1099 forms. One is an NEC, which is non-employee compensation. The other is a miscellaneous. We are board members. If we file with an NEC, then it's a problem because then we have to pay self-employment tax. I am not self-employed. I'm receiving a stipend for being a board member. I have had every year that this is wrong, I've had to pay self-employment tax and claim it under Schedule C if it's filed as an NEC. So it should never be filed under an NEC. It only an NEC for people who actually contract with us who have a physical job. As board members, this is not a physical job. This is a stipend that we receive for being a board member. It is not self-employment.
I understand that, but I think somewhere in here it also says that when it is a stipend, you don't have to report it on a Schedule C. There's somewhere else on your tax return that you report that, so that you don't have to pay Social Security.
Okay, what I'm going to tell you is if it's filed under an NEC, there is no way, if you're using tax preparation like I do on the computer, there is no way to do it except to claim it as a Schedule C. So the only way to claim it otherwise is on line 8 of our taxes, which is miscellaneous other income, which is fine. And we looked it up, and it's in the tax code. Unless you find otherwise. We went round and round and round with this a couple years ago because I kept having to pay self-employment tax, and I'm disabled and I shouldn't have to pay self-employment tax. So the only way to
So,
not pay
years
self-employment.
ago, did they put it on a 1099 miscellaneous also for you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so, but this year they changed it, and it says here on the IRS code, it says director's fees. You must report director's fees and other remuneration, including payments made after retirement on a 1099 NEC in the year paid. Report on box 1. So that's all I wanted to say. But, you know, Linda Sheldon has the 1099s done. She filed it with the IRS, so I think that we should all go with that. You know, I think she prepared it the way that you want it on the miscellaneous 1099 and in the schedule box that you wanted it. So, and she's already reported it to the IRS. I haven't reported any of mine to the IRS. So I think it's best that you all, once Tiffany emails you the 1099s, you can use those.
Can you please make
okay?
a copy of the tax code that says that and have it for us
I will.
next time? Because as far as
Sure.
I don't understand. We looked up a whole bunch of stuff.
I know it's really hard to follow. It's,
If
you know, there's
if
so
you're a
much detail.
director of, if you're a paid director of a private board, that makes sense because a paid director that would be a job. But we're not paid directors of a private board. We're directors of a public utility district, and I don't believe that that is part of that. And I would want us to research that much further because I think that that's not. I mean, I could be wrong, and they could have changed it to where it's now self-employment tax, but that would be, you know, as
Well,
far as
I still like to say that I don't believe you have to pay self-employment tax on that.
Problem is when you do the
But no matter
electronic,
what you report, no matter what 1089 you reported on, you should not have to pay that.
right? But when you go to do the Linda, your like your TurboTax and stuff automatically does a Schedule C, and then you end up paying, and no matter what you try to do to go through, they won't let you change it.
I hate it when they make you do what they want you to do. Okay, so Lisa, I'll look that up and see, you know, I'm going to talk to my an EA and ask her about that, how we can, you know, fix that for you guys so you don't have to pay Social Security tax.
Thank
Okay,
you,
maybe
Linda.
she'll give me an idea. Okay.
Okay.
So in the meantime, use the one that Linda Sheldon sent you, and you know, we have all year to figure out this. So until next year, as long as this year is final.
I'm confused. I'm
You're not
confused.
the only one.
So
Barry?
here,
Okay.
let me try to just break it down for you. So there's two different forms. They changed the forms this year. It used to
No,
all
I
be
understand about that.
no,
But what I don't understand is the 1099 that was delivered to me the other day is incorrect.
yes.
Yes, you should have an email that Tiffany sent you with the one that Linda Sheldon filed, and she marked it as a miscellaneous And I haven't printed mine out yet, but I have the email. Tiffany sent each one of us directors, what Linda filed with the IRS.
Right, what
Okay.
Linda filed is there were two different ways to file. One is a 1099 miss, and the other is a 1099 NEC, non-employment compensation. She filed the miss, and she filed it online on box 3, which box 3 is other income. Okay, so that's how she filed it. If it's filed any other way, we have to send in a corrected 1099. So currently that is what actually went to the government. If
So
you
you have
use,
to,
Yeah.
so you
She
have to
sent
get
it
the
to-
one from,
Pardon?
I don't have a printer, so I'm wondering is there a way that Tiffany could get me a printed one out?
I need one too. Cause I didn't even get the email.
Yeah, if it's okay to wait till Monday, if Tiffany prints them, I'll be happy to run them.
Oh,
to you.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I have no problem with bringing them to you.
okay, and I don't need it.
Okay.
and I don't need it.
Okay, Lisa,
Yes,
so do I report the finances right now, or do I go on to, Graham, you
yeah,
had some.
yeah, you report the
Yeah, we haven't,
Yeah, that.
and we haven't paid our bills yet, so we kind of moved on and
Yeah, we needed a motion to pay our bills. It's just that Brahma brought this up.
yeah,
so.
I'm sorry. Can we go back and, is everybody good on, Director Garcia, and everybody's good on that we're gonna use Linda's, what Linda,
Yes.
filed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Can I
then.
say
As long as
something?
we all
very
get printout.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
Linda Wilkie, from,
Yes,
from what Linda Sheldon sent us, she did not prepare a 1099 for the cross connection control for David Wasserman. So it sounds like you're going to have to submit that 1099 to the IRS.
you
And
know,
that-
that messes things up so much. I'm just so irritated right now.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's definitely
I'm
an-
telling you.
Join our club.
Linda, that one's definitely an NEC. So
Yes,
yeah,
that's already been given to him. He has it. He's happy. We had a nice conversation. But now, you see, Linda Sheldon already sent in the W-9. I mean, I forget what is the red form, to the IRS. And if it did not have him on it, then her form is incorrect.
It
And we'll
did not have
probably
him on it.
Okay, so did he have anybody else? Did she have anybody else on it?
Yes,
Just the
the
directors,
attorney
right?
and her own business. So Sheldon and Associates and
Yeah.
our attorney Young Wooldridge.
And I had said her one too, right? Okay. All righty. Well, I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can do.
We're in transition, so
Yeah.
it may be a little frustrating, Linda, for a few months as we iron everything out. So,
Thank you. Yeah.
I
Well, you know,
I'd like to say to you, Linda, that from this point forward, you should just rely on your expertise and not lean on Linda Sheldon at all. You know,
Yeah.
don't bother asking her
Well, I
questions or
won't.
nothing because we never get a real answer. So we'll just move forward from this point and call it a learning lesson.
okay.
Yes.
Let's finish. Can we
can I
finish
add
some?
can
Okay,
I
go ahead,
add
Director Schoenberg.
yes, you need to rely on your expertise, and also though, please do not make any changes or anything to stuff until you hear from the board, because we definitely always need to bring it in front of the board before any changes are made to anything. So like if you found out that law is correct and we're wrong and you need to do a corrected 1099, then you would want to bring that to the board and tell us first and give us the appropriate documentation for that so that we can say okay and then make that change. So same with any other kind of
Absolutely.
change.
I think what I would like to bring up is a clarification that if we have certain things classified under certain, where we put everything. And if for some reason you think it should be under a different classification, you need to bring that to Director Schoenberg so that we are in agreement that, the way we're reflecting it in our P&L and in our books. That
Last week, I talked to Linda and I let her know just that everything has been worked out to the board members' satisfaction or towards your satisfaction all this time. So everything has to be run by Lisa, because Lisa's the one that works the most on that.
Yeah, but it's not just me. It needs to be the
No,
whole.
but I mean, simple questions could be answered by you. The whole thing would go to the board if it's a major change. But what I said, you're the one that follows it the most closely and has had to work through all this stuff. So if she needs an answer before a board meeting, she can call you and possibly get an answer without having to wait till the next board meeting, is what I meant.
Right, but any changes.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to state that Johnny and Tiffany have really been super. They've been helping me out a lot, and I'm grateful for that. But I do want to meet with Lisa. Lisa, if you're available, maybe we can do a Zoom meeting together on black like we are here right now tonight. And because I was looking at the financial statements, and in actuality, I don't know how any of you could tell what expenses go where for what project, because the way the financial statement should be set up is you need classes. In other words, and I want to, meet with you, Lisa, so we can discuss this. I was looking at the FPPUD LOW planning grant. The expenses that are under there are from Jasper, which is construction, I would assume, and the members' meetings, planning meetings. Well, those shouldn't be all under there. That should have its own class with its own mini financial statements. So in other words, a class would be like a department or a different location or something like that. So this would be a different project. And I think that you've been asking for this for a while, Lisa.
Yeah, that's why it's all messed up on the book asset detail. It's the way it's been going to the accountants. It's just one big chunk. And so what they do when they put it as an asset is it'll just say, like, it's crazy. It'll just say USDA grant, and it doesn't break anything down whatsoever, and is completely unhelpful to us, because we then have this. Yes, you're on the right track with that.
Okay.
The financial statement looks good, but it's not useful for you the way it's set up. So I would like to get together with you when you're ready, and then we can go through a few things. I can give you some examples of what we can do to make your lives a little bit easier in reading these financial statements.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So that'll be great.
And just so you know, Linda, we totally jumped ahead. So what normally happens is that you actually would go first, and we totally messed up tonight and didn't do that. So
I messed up. I take responsibility.
Go
ahead and give your financial, Linda.
Okay, so let's see. I do not have a cash balance at this meeting because I don't have access to the bank yet. But I know I heard somebody is in the process of getting me that. There's nothing for me to. Okay.
Yeah, sorry
which I
about
will
that.
need it before the end of the month, so I could reconcile before the next meeting.
I need to get I either need to give you a password, because we're not going to do it together. So I either need to give you a password and you can then change that password immediately, or you can give me a password. I would recommend that I give you a false password, and just put that it expires immediately, and then that allows you to put in your own password. And you just have to remember it, because I won't be able to fix that if it's wrong.
Okay, that'll be fine.
Okay.
It'll be a third party, so it'll be a third party, so I wouldn't even mind you having it, or because it's just for
viewing.
Yeah, it's just for viewing anyway. So anyways, let's see. So in reviewing, let me see. So the revenue operating account is 3,815.40 less, which was the total of checks that we cut for bills and received, that we received in the last 2 weeks, and reviewed by the board for accuracy. And as you see, I have to make some corrections.
Yes.
Okay, the total dispersed was 3,815.40. And I did receive a small amount of cash deposits and an accounts receivable report, which I did not enter yet. So that's what I have for the financial report.
Okay.
I'm not really quite sure how it's supposed to go on the second meeting here, but that's what
Yeah,
I have.
I think that's sufficient. I'll entertain a motion that we pay our bills.
I'll move that we pay our bills as altered by, as you know, per what was mentioned, which is that we're changing the West Star Gas and the just the West Star Gas.
That's it. Mhm.
And you
I'll
said there's
second
another,
that.
you said you had to recut a check, right?
Yeah, that's the West Star Gas.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Director Garcia seconded that. So roll call directors, Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Gibson,
Aye.
Director Kelling,
Aye.
Director Nyman's and I, Director Schoenberg.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0-0. I wanted to bring up one thing. I will be, I had held Linda Sheldon's check because prior to that, she had not answered us, and I was going to have the check recut minus the $75 fee for doing the 1099s. And since she did do the 1099s and has submitted them, I'm going to go ahead and mail that check.
But the one thing I'd like to say to that is she didn't do them correctly, and she did them way late after Linda Wilkie already was
I
trying to
know, but
recreate them.
I don't think we should just pursue it. I think we should just be done with it.
Move on. All right, yeah,
And move
I agree.
on. That's my opinion.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all.
Well, the thing is, she did technically do them, even though not when she said she did them. So do we? You know, I get what Brown was saying. Let's just move on. It's $75. Move on, and
We
get
do
past it.
do that with everything. We move on, we move on, we move on.
No, it's only
Fine, let's
$75.
move on.
Terry. It's not that much.
Let's move on.
Well, I think, Director Kelling, what I would like to say is that I think that in light, even though I don't feel that I do have some issues with it, the fact that she didn't do it on time and the fact that she didn't send it when she said she was going to send it, she finally did send it.
And
That's
it's
the only
correct.
reason why I want to just go ahead and move on, because even though she did do that, she did drive back at least 2 different months in a row and did our checks in the transition period for Linda Wilkie. So I don't want to get petty, and I don't want to get into some dispute with her. She did as much as I have some problems with some of the things that she's done. She did come out from Nevada twice and did our checks and worked with Linda Wilkie. So this is why I'm saying what I'm saying.
I agree.
Makes
I
sense.
think that's really nice. Yeah.
So I just think we should just be
Move
done
on.
and move on. Sorry. So
Thank you.
okay. All right. Discussion vote on
Oh,
book.
wait, is that everything? So,
Okay. Are you
so-
okay with that, Director Gibson, Director Kelling,
Yes,
Director Garcia?
Yes.
is that everything that besides the book asset detail that Linda Wilkie has though? Because, and Linda, you already wrote down the reclassification on the Kern County Public Works. And then you also, you're going to be fixing the 1099.
I'll leave it on the
NEC.
desk in the office, Linda.
And And then you're also gonna have to fix, so you're gonna have to do a change to the government anyway, because that, what she submitted is incorrect. I mean, it's missing two,
Dave
missing
Wasserman
you
and
and missing,
It is. I'm gonna take a few minutes and think about how I want to handle that, which way is the best way to go. I might just send a corrected 1096. We'll see. We'll see. And
Cool.
because she didn't include David Wasserman, and but she
and
did
you.
include the attorney. So yeah, so he's the only one that has to be included in that. So maybe I'll just send it a corrected 1096, and I don't have to send out any 1099s. I think
Right.
that would work. So I did have one more question, if you don't mind. What I noticed is that when we get the bills, we enter them in accounts payable, and we pay them right away. So we don't, in essence, have accounts payable. So I was wondering, if I could talk to the auditor, or someone could talk to the auditor for me, are we an actual accrual basis, or are we a cash basis? Now, in accounting, the income could be an accrual basis and the expenses could be in a cash basis. But the way you're paying the bills right now, they are cash basis. And taking the extra step to just put in the payables and pay the bill, then it's just extra work. So there, is everybody else confused now? So
Yeah.
that's a question for the auditor if nobody has the answer to that. But it takes less time to pay the bills when they come in than it does to put them on accounts payable and then pay them when they come in,
Right,
because they're already in.
tracking,
That's double the work.
I believe it's done that way as a tracking, because if you just did a cash basis, I think that they, because they're really sort of the account. I don't know. It's been done that way as long as I've been on the board.
Or
And
I saw, yeah. I saw that
Yeah.
it's been that way for a long time.
Yeah,
But
very
yeah,
long.
so I'm just questioning whether it's the correct way or if it's a way of just making more time, taking more time. So we down the line, maybe we can talk to the auditor about it. He'll know
So
instantly what we could do, what it
how
should
would
be.
how would it be entered otherwise?
How would it be different?
Well, when the bill comes in, you just enter the bill and you write a check with the way the accrual is done is that the bill comes in, you enter the bill in payable, and then you go in and you pay it. So you've entered it twice. So you've kind of done the a two-time
I
entry.
see what you're saying. Yeah, part of
Yeah.
this may be a leftover because before we had QuickBooks, we had a much more complicated program that we were using, and you couldn't, it was done that way back then so that nothing could be changed. It was kind of a semi fail safe for someone misappropriating funds, I guess. And I think that when QuickBooks got robust enough to use us, the accountants were fine with us using QuickBooks. So for a while there was no way for us to use that because they didn't feel that it was safe enough. Now, almost everybody uses that. So I think you may be correct, and it may just be like a double entry that is a carryover from the old way that we used to do things.
So I think we should just talk to the auditors then, Lisa. I mean, that's something that we could get Linda involved maybe and talk to them about because if it helps, if it makes it easier to be done once, and we can change it, then maybe we should.
Yeah, because we definitely
And
always pay them as they come in. We don't hold, so.
Yes, I noticed that. Okay, so, and I wanted to ask, if I could talk to I don't want to go directly and call the auditor without permission either, so, I thought I'd put that past you guys. Let me see, is that it? I just entered in the staff process. Okay, I think that's it from me.
So
So
did
that's
you,
just the things that I noticed for the short time that I've been here, those things.
Yeah, and I believe
And,
Linda was, we should approve however we want to do that. You being able to speak with the auditors directly, and then you being able to report that to us so that that you have any questions answered, unless it's a more complicated thing where, we're talking about like the book asset detail, or we're talking about changing categorizations and stuff. And in that case, then we definitely would want to do it as an ad hoc and be part of, have two directors be a part of that. But for more simple stuff, I know that Linda did communicate with them, and so that we should,
oh, okay.
be able
And
to.
you are a government agency, so you might be there might be different rules for you. So I'm not aware of that myself. So that's why, speaking to the auditor, I'd be able to get that information, because
What-
you might be required
So-
to do it that way.
right, so do you want to be involved in that, Director Schoenberg, or?
Yeah, but I would suggest that we ask if the auditors would be able to come to, because we have had a change of personnel of, our bookkeeper. I would see if we could do invite them to come on Zoom and actually be a part of the next regular meeting. And that way, any questions that any board members have about any, could be answered. And, we know that it's going to cost us a certain amount, but that way, questions that have come up currently could be answered. And we need to talk to them anyway about the book asset detail. So that could be done, so that the whole board understands what's going on. So I think probably we're at a point where we could invite them to come and we could ask the questions we need to ask, and they could explain, what they need to explain to us. And that way, kind of all of the directors understand what's going on, and then we move on from there, rather than just put it in an ad hoc, which would cost us the same amount.
Sounds good to me. What do you think? What does the other directors think? Are they okay with that?
Yes, I would like that.
Okay, so maybe Tiffany can try to get them to come on next meeting in
Yep,
2
I
weeks.
will invite them.
Okay. All righty. So I don't think we have anything on book asset detail. So,
Nothing new yet, but that could be discussed. So that would be part of what we would talk about in this next meeting. Just
correct.
kind of where to go from where we're at currently,
Alright.
because they're, yeah. And so that
Okay.
Linda is able to hear all that too, because she's, it's another part of what she does. And so that way we're doing it correctly.
Right. Okay. New business, 12 managers report.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Well, I mean, I have nothing project related, and
Yeah, I
I
know. I'm just,
yeah, I caught myself giving updates like in a regular meeting, and I realized I should keep the regular meeting stuff separate.
right. Okay, number 13, discussion vote on future agenda items.
Next
Oh.
month, I'm trying to get the president of the Chamber of Commerce to come so we can discuss renewing that lease for the billboards.
That would
Okay.
be a good thing.
Okay, if nobody else has anything else, I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
I will make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Director Kelly is seconded. Roll call of directors, Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Gibson,
Aye.
Director Kelling,
Aye.
Director Nyman's and I, Director Schoenberg.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We are adjourned at 8:56 PM.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, Linda.
And
Thank you, everyone.
so
Thank
so
you.
I don't have to come by